Please enjoy this talk given at the Austin Center for Spiritual Living, where we live and teach the principles of science of mind and spirit. For more information, visit austincsl.org.
This is the Thanksgiving week. This coming Thursday, we're having a wonderful Thanksgiving potluck, and you're all invited to that, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as would like to come to be there. And I was thinking during this week about this whole idea of Thanksgiving, and our theme this morning is Thanksgiving and the law of attraction, and we'll get to that eventually. But my mind was going round and round in this idea of Thanksgiving, and one of the things I came to realize is that truly being in a state of thanksgiving or gratitude, it involves knowing what your priorities are, knowing what is important in your life. And I got to thinking when I was a young lad, young teenager, many, many years ago, one of my favorite actors was somebody that many of you probably have never heard of. Guy by the name of George Raft. Do any of you remember George Raft? Well, some of you I'm sure do, but he died back in 1980. He was born back in 1901, I think it was, or 1900. That's questionable when he was born, but he was born in Hell's Kitchen in New York, and he was very, very good. He was a Humphrey Bogart type and could have been just as popular as Humphrey Bogart, except his career was not managed very well. As a result, he missed a lot of good roles that he could have had that Humphrey Bogart got, even though they starred together. And I know you wanted to know all of that about him. But he was one of my heroes. And he made a comment. It goes something like this. He says, I must have gone through $10 million during my career. I spent some on gambling, part on booze, and part on women. And the rest I spent foolishly. Don't you love that? Now, you may not have the same kind of priorities, but he knew what his priorities were. And I think sometimes that can be very valuable to us, to be aware of that. There's another wonderful quotation that comes from a great 13th century mystic, a Catholic priest, a Dominican priest from Germany by the name of Meister Eckhart. And he made this comment. He says, if the only prayer that you say during your whole life, if there's only one prayer that you were to utter in your whole life, it would be, thank you, and that would suffice. Isn't that great when you think about it and you say, well, why is that? When I want so much, can't I learn to pray to get everything that I want, everything that I need, everything that I desire? And he says, if there's only one prayer that you can have, it would be thank you. So it's almost as if there's some kind of magic within that, isn't it? There's a woman, a modern day philosopher that I like very much, and every once in a while I come across something of hers. Her name is Sarah von Brethnick. And she made this comment, and I want you to pay attention to this. She says, the thing about gratitude that constantly amazes me is how fresh it is and how it's a moving attitude. It's not passive, it's very passionate. It opens you to the good that surrounds you. That's the most important thing about gratitude. It's like opening a door and finding behind that door treasures that you never even knew were there. It slows you down and stops your whining. Isn't that wonderful? Stops your whining, your complaining. And a lot of times we get so involved giving our attention to those things that we don't want, or those things we don't like to look at, those things about which we're whining, griping, moaning, and complaining, that's where we put all of our energy, and we miss what's available to us all the time. If nothing else, being grateful sets all of that reluctance and all of that other stuff aside and allows us to be at least aware enough to see what we already have. But there's something more than that. As we begin to acknowledge the good of life, it seems to multiply. The more that we complain, the more we are distracted from the gifts of life, and the more attention that we give on those good things, the more we're going to be able to see them at the very least, and something else kind of magically happens. It's almost as if we put a signal out there that draws them right to us. And this is incredible. You know, the more gratitude, the more we experience. The less gratitude, that is, the more complaining and moaning and groaning, the more we tend to shut out from our experience. And that's the basic principle behind this whole thing called the law of attraction. You know, we've heard so much about this, and there have been books written about it and lots of workshops and seminars. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's not a new discovery. It's accessed. In other words, we attract into our experience according to what we acknowledge. First of all, we see it because we become aware of it. Secondly, it's like we create this attractive magnetic field of a sort. It's a mental magnetism that brings things into our life. Another way of putting it is that what we appreciate appreciates. You got it? Using appreciate as what we give thanks for. Will appreciate, that is, it will multiply. That's a wonderful concept. What I appreciate appreciates in my life. Gratitude, complaint. The choice is yours, and it is always your choice. Okay, let's look at this idea of gratitude and appreciation. I personally feel that this is probably among one of the most transforming kinds of energies that we can activate in our life. See, gratitude is basically a consciousness of a process of becoming aware of all that life holds for us, all the good that life holds for us, and then acknowledging that as the gift. And as I've already said, it sensitizes our environment in some way in which that which I seek is seeking me. That's a term that Ernest Holmes, our founder, used over and over. That which you seek is seeking you. That's a powerful concept to carry that forward. I've heard it said, I just read recently somebody's comment that he said that gratitude equals wealth. Well, now an equality is kind of like an identity. Gratitude is wealth. But what does that really mean? Because if gratitude is wealth, then wealth is gratitude. That is what we mean by an equality or an identity in that particular case. I looked up the word wealth, and wealth comes from a Middle English word that means well-being. So that's what we are talking about. When we are opening ourselves in gratitude, we are acknowledging our well-being. And the idea is that by feeling more gratitude, you're going to feel more wealthy, and thereby you're going to attract more of whatever wealth represents to you into your life. Now, in thinking about this, I see there's kind of two levels of the expression of gratitude or thanksgiving. And the first is what I call the ordinary level, and the second is what I call the not so ordinary level. It's really a holistic level or a spiritual level of expressing gratitude, and which is the most effective way, I believe. But both ways are wonderful. And this way, this holistic, this spiritual kind of expression of gratitude is based in the awareness of being, just being. Whereas the ordinary way that we normally think of expressing gratitude is based in the material things of our life. Both of them are okay. Let's look at the ordinary way first. You know, many of us generate thoughts of gratitude about a lot of things, about our jobs, the people in our lives, our relationships, our family, our friends, our skills, our talents, our health, the place to live, our material possessions, and all of those kinds of things for which we are grateful, and it's very, very appropriate, and it's a great thing to do. All of these are deserving of our gratitude. And you know, sometimes it helps to go through a little exercise around this. And here's another guy that I was reading who says this: I woke up one day 11 years ago and I was sick of the sound of my own whining. I never complained to anyone else, but I sure did to myself. I just couldn't take it, and I told myself, sit down, shut up, and don't get up until you give me 100 reasons why your life is perfect. 6 or 7 hours later, I had done that, and it really opened my eyes, and it continues to open my eyes. Now think about that. So often we've gone to workshops, success workshops, and we've had some facilitator stand up and say, now one of the things you need to do, it's a very, very useful thing to do, and that is sit down with a pad of paper and a pencil or pen and write down everything that you can possibly think of that you've ever wanted in your life. Very useful thing to do. I mean, it begins to open up possibilities for you. You begin to see things that have been moving in you that you've never seen before. And if you cannot be conditioned to exclude certain things, you begin to bring up things that you maybe have hidden or submerged in your consciousness for a long time. That's fine. But a lot of people, and many of us, have done that. I have friends of mine who stayed up all night writing their lists of everything they've wanted. Some of them have become very successful. How much that had to do with it, I don't know, but I rather suspect it was not an idle exercise. On the other hand, many times we don't think of the value of writing down everything we can possibly think of, for which we are thankful. Just remember, that for which you are thankful is what you identify with. There's an old statement that goes, the power of the universe, that is the manifesting power of the universe, that element of power and energy in the universe that makes things. The power of the universe flows to the focus of your attention. What are you giving your attention to? And then it produces accordingly. Are you looking at what you don't have and lamenting that? Or are you looking at the possibilities that arise as a result of acknowledging what is here already? Now, all of these things that I talk about are material things, and that's fine. And they're deserving of our gratitude. It's a practice that I espouse and that I recommend to everybody. And these are the kinds of things that often come to mind when we hear songs around Christmas times and at other times during the year about counting your blessings and that sort of thing. Wonderful, wonderful. There's nothing wrong with this. It's a very useful thing to do. But I think there is a deeper, a better way, and that is dwelling at another level that moves you from lack and limitation into a sense of the expansiveness of your own life. And this deeper kind of gratitude is the holistic, or this is the spiritual approach to what we've been talking about, and I alluded to just a little while ago. It carries you beyond the material level, which is fine, and which we all enjoy. But it takes you into a pure gratitude, kind of a practice that acknowledges your existence, just who you are. This is a place that is independent of the circumstances, people, persons, things, and events, for which we can be very grateful. Or oftentimes we interact in such ways that aren't so useful. But this is a place, this is a level of gratitude that moves you into that state that is independent of all the things of life. And no, it is not some kind of mysterious, mystical, altered state that puts you off into some sublime bliss. You're not going to get blissed out doing this. In fact, what you're going to do is you are going to become aware. Because what it involves is reminding yourself of the pure wonder of life itself. And it's there that you allow there to emerge from within you a feeling for life itself, for everything that you experience of life as a result of underlying influences in your life. And some people call these influences God, if we allow God to express. Not that we're trying to convince God out there somewhere, because God is not out there. Well, wait a minute. She's out there, but she's everywhere else too, right in the middle of each one of you. And I use she just to awaken you for a moment, because we cannot assign a gender to this loving presence in the universe that surrounds and permeates everything. But it's the acknowledgement that there's this some subliminal something in us that's constantly pounding on the doors of our consciousness to be expressed. It allows there to emerge this feeling of gratitude for life and for everything that we experience. Rather than a temporary emotional response, it's an underlying attitude is based in a pure appreciation for existence itself. Now, so that all sounds pretty philosophical and esoteric. And what can we get out of this? So what are some of the things for which we can be grateful that are at this particular level I'm talking about, the level of the awareness of existence? Well, we can begin to stimulate that awareness when we intellectually begin to recognize certain things in our life, things for which we can be grateful, that we can't quantify. Things like, first of all, just your life itself. How grateful are you for that? You know, at my age, when I wake up in the morning, I say, oh, I'm still here. Thank you, God. Okay? I'm sure Jean does the same thing. There are many, many things like this. How about your freedom to be able to choose? See, nobody can take that from you. That's not a material thing. That's a subtle thing. You are at choice in life, always. And I know that there are people that have been constrained and put into some kind of confining environments. And I think of so many of the people and so many friends of whom I have had, and their parents experienced the Holocaust during the Second World War, being confined in those concentration camps. But the one thing they could do was they could use their mind to make choices that could not be taken away from them. That's not a material thing. How grateful are we for that? And especially living in a context, this country, the United States of America, that encourages that. Now, some politicians would like to make more and more of our choices, I know that. But they can't do that because we're encouraged to be able to express that aspect of us. That's not a material thing, folks. The universe, the creation itself. Are you in awe of the magnificence of it? I'm doing a course now. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. Whom? deGrasse. Well, whatever he is. Wonderful, wonderful, marvelous astrophysicist. And we're doing a course, Marcia and I. Marcia's my wife, for those of you that are new here. And in it, he's talking about things we don't understand about the universe, the mysteries of the universe. And he points out all the things that we have come to think we understand, only to find out as we go farther and farther in inquiring into the nature of things, that most of those end up wrong because we found something that is explaining it more completely or radically different from it. And all that can do is point the way to more and more. And as we inquire into the way things are unfolding, we realize what a magnificent, what a universe filled full of wonder and challenge and excitement. Now, there's nothing material about that. But can you feel the gratitude for that kind of thing? Now, let's not leave out of this our problems and our challenges. And you say, well, wait a minute, those are pretty material. Well, they're pretty material, but when you can look at them and recognize that within them there are possibilities that transcend or will point the way to experiences that allow you to unfold your own capabilities in ways that you may have never been able to do before. So those have value. Your ideas, your concepts, all stem out of your own creativity. And every one of you is creative. Have you ever been sitting in a group and say, oh, well, I'm just not very creative, I can't. You cannot be uncreative, folks. And you may be at your most creative when you're declaring, I am not creative, because the universe looks at you and says, it shall be done unto you as you believe. Yes. I agree with you. It's incredible. We can be thankful for these things as we can be thankful for our challenges and our promises. How great it is to just exist. Just grateful for the adventure of life. And this is what I'm talking about. This is this other level. This is the place where we have no attachment to circumstances, outcomes, things, results, people, institutions or whatever. We really move beyond this. And as we begin to acknowledge that subtle level of thankfulness or gratitude, then something interesting happens. It kind of opens us and leaves us free to be able to love as we've never loved before. And there's a consequence to that, a very good consequence. And as we're beginning to experience at that level, we also find that we tend to lose our fear of losing something, or our fear of changes that might take us away from where we are. At the practical level, to wrap this up this morning, what this means, at least to me, is that as my gratitude becomes more unconditional and not, that is, uninfluenced by the things of life, my life becomes more open to experience it all. I don't do it to experience more and more and more. I just do it to be open to life itself. And this is a place where, and you remember the quotation that comes out of the Gospel of Matthew, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all other things shall be added unto you. That's where we begin to reach that point where it's in the seeking. We're never really going to quite achieve it because there's an limitless possibility within which to seek, but it's in the process of seeking. And when we're seeking an awareness of that inner attunement to the presence itself, we don't have to worry about all these other things. They just naturally flow into our life, and one of the ways we do this is through the practice of gratitude. When you wake up in the morning, look around you and say, I am happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When you arrive at this point, this is the point at which you really do activate this thing called the law of attraction. And it's no great mystery. I want to end with another quotation from this woman philosopher, I call her Sarah Ban Brecknoth. She says, both abundance and lack exist simultaneously in our lives as parallel realities. It is always our conscious choice which secret garden we will tend. When we choose not to focus on what is missing from our lives, but are grateful for the abundance that is present, tangible and intangible, the wasteland of illusion falls away and we experience heaven on earth. Let's quiet ourselves now and come to center. Just be reminded that indeed we are made in the image and likeness of that which made us, with that which made everything. And as the Gospel of John says, in the beginning was the Word. That is the creative impulse behind all creation. And the Word was with God, the Word was God, and there was nothing made except through the expression of that Word. So what am I? What is everyone here but a child of that infinite something that is without limitation, that is beyond imagination? We call it God, Allah, Yahweh, whatever. That is what I am. All that God is at that infinite level, I am at this level, this finite, particular level. The beauty, the joy, the power, the love, the balance, the harmony, all of these characteristics that are part of this infinite something that I call God are resident within me. And I can never be separated from that. For everything is interconnected. I, everyone here, everyone everywhere on this planet and beyond, throughout this apparently limitless universe. It's all one thing, interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. Wow. I'm in the midst of it. I look at it and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I recognize that it is part of me. It is in my life. And I open myself to experience more and more of that awareness that allows this melding, this sense of melding with it all and with each other. And out of that, I know that healing occurs right now in my life and in the life of anyone who can embrace these same incredible, simple, but sometimes almost unbelievable ideas. There is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life. Right here, right now, and I accept healing for myself in whatever area, physical, mental, emotional, and for everyone else here. It is so. I am grateful that it is so. And together we can declare, and so it is.